Hi stamping friends, Melissa Kerman here with Melissa's Crafting Treehouse. Today I'm sharing with you a project we made at my September clubs. This is also one of the free card kits with orders placed in September and October. We're using the colorful seasons stamp set and the seasonal layers Thinlits that coordinate and also come as a bundle for 10% off. And we're using the vintage leaves stamp set, which I love. So for today's project, I'm going to be stamping with wet watercolor paper. So for my first step, I just sprayed my watercolor paper generously with some water. And the more water I use, of course, the more bleeding I'm going to get. And I used a fair amount of water on this version. So as you can see, as I stamp that green old olive oak leaf, it is sort of bleeding and blending, which is kind of the look that I'm going for. So next I'm coming in with my Pool Party ink, and this is one of my smaller leaves, kind of just making sure that my leaves generally kind of point in a different direction and sort of filling in the gaps. You can see I'm kind of fussing with, getting them to fill in the spaces, and I don't really need to stamp on that water on the paper towels, so I moved those out of the way. And now I'm coming in with my Daffodil Delight ink pad with the smallest leaf, and I kind of generally try to get 3 of each color sort of in the mix. So I just stamped that maple leaf, and you can see I didn't totally get a solid image, so later I'm going to go back in and stamp over it again. Because the colors are blended, it works just fine to do that, so there I am doing it a second time. And now I'm going to go in and spray it again to help the colors blend a little bit. And also I need some water on that surface for my next step. So now I'm actually sprinkling a little bit of coarse salt on my stamped surface. It's wet, so the salt is going to absorb into all the areas that are wet, and it will change the way the ink looks and give it a really pretty texture. So as you can see, I just sprayed some more water on there, and where the salt is, the ink sort of looks a little bit different, and I think it's a really pretty effect. So now I want to show you a couple of other versions. This is just straight stamping on watercolor paper, and then I did the wet stamping on the watercolor paper on this one, but I added a little bit of brown speckles, and then you can see I have some leaves in there, just like I had on the original version. And here's another couple other samples that I've done. They each turn out really different. It's very hard to control it and make them look the same, but that's part of the fun, right? So for all 3 leaves, I shaped them and sponged them. So here you see me sponging the edges of my larger old olive leaf, and you can hold it up in the air and sponge, or hold it down on your paper. You can generally get more ink on there when you do it flat on the paper. And now I'm using my bone folder to shape the leaf, and I'm making it sort of bend and curl in different ways, forward and backwards, so it looks like a real natural leaf. And I've put dimensionals on the back side of the leaf and the part of the leaf that's curved out, and then I will put glue dots on the part that's going to lay flat onto the card. And I did that with all 3 of my leaves. I have a crushed curry leaf and also a rich raspberry leaf on there. So what you're seeing me mess with here is the focal piece that had the brown specks on it, and I'll show you the finished card in just a bit. So here's the finished focal piece that we stamped earlier, and I'm just rubbing off some of the salt. I like to actually leave some of the salt on there because it's just a cool look, but you can see some of the blending and effect of the salt. And I'm just putting adhesive on the back side of that focal piece off camera and just attaching it to my white piece. And then I'm just going to assemble my card, just attaching it to its Pool Party card base. So my last step for this card is just to add the leaves on, and I've already curled them and sponged them, and I'm using Old Olive, Pool Party, and Rich Raspberry leaves on this one. That was, I think I used crushed curry on the version up above on the left. And then my original card is the one over there on the right. I hope you've enjoyed this technique and will give it a try. It's really a lot of fun. And to learn more about my free card kit program, there are details in the description below, plus links to the other kits for September and October. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel and share it with a friend. Thanks so much for spending some time with me today. Happy crafting!